Hey, this is a gray bearded ninja. So let's talk about land navigation skills. Let me ask you a question. In all your ninjutsu training, all of the time that you spend doing martial arts and stuff like that, have you ever stopped to think about the importance of other skills outside of the martial arts dojo? Many people that study and train in ninjutsu are not preparing themselves for skill set as described in the Bansenshukai, the Shoninki, the Nimpuden. Now, some of those skills that the original ninja had in feudal Japan were land navigation skills. So we have to ask ourselves this question: what would a real ninja do today, a modern ninja, in regards to land navigation skills? Would they have land navigation skills? Would they deem that to be important? Would they focus all of their time on martial arts, or would they actually be spending time learning other skills outside of the martial arts realm? And in my opinion, I believe that in order to consider yourself a complete ninjutsu practitioner, it is important to have fieldcraft skills that fall outside of the dojo. And one of those skills that we're going to talk about is land navigation. Land navigation is so important because if you don't know where you're at, how are you going to be able to get to where you want to be? And that's an important concept in so many different aspects of our lives. But let's get into this. So there is really good resources online for learning a fundamental knowledge of land navigation skills. However, once you get that head knowledge, you need to make it into field knowledge. What I mean is, you got to get outside and you got to practice these things. You have to uh, get involved in going outdoors, using the equipment that you have available to you, and using the knowledge that you have obtained through either reading books, watching videos, going to classes. Those are important things. But the most important thing is, once you have acquired that knowledge, now you need to go out there and train. You need to go out there and practice these skills. So, what are some of the tools that we're going to use in land navigation? Well, I can only show you what I use. Um, and your kit may be similar, it may not be. But there's some baseline equipment that I believe that all people that are doing land navigation need to be, aware of and probably consider having in your kit. So let's talk about the baseline compass. This is an extremely important aspect of your land navigation kit. This is a Sunto A10. This is actually, well, probably their most inexpensive compass they have, but it's great because it also has a protractor built into it for when you're reading maps and you're determining bearing and degrees. So having the Sunto, I couldn't recommend this anymore. The Sunto makes much more expensive compasses, but just even starting out with an A10, the Sunto A10 baseline compass is extremely valuable to you. And the bezel moves, and you can set your 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 settings on your compass very smoothly. It's very nice. You want to avoid cheap compasses, especially compasses with bubbles inside of the liquid that's inside of these. The Sunto is made over in Europe, and I'm just very, very pleased with the quality of this compass. And I would just recommend that you get online and you do some research and do some bargain shopping. I bought this one used. It cost me maybe 10 bucks, 10, 12 bucks, which is an extremely good price for a Sunto baseline compass. Now, for you military types, you may remember and recognize the Lensatic compass. The Lensatic compass is quite a bit different than the baseline compass. Both of these have their value, their pros and their cons, and I carry both inside of my kit for my land navigation kit. These things, they just have different options, and there are many different kinds of compasses. Sunto makes an A42, Sunto A42 compass that has a mirror on it, and it's great for other options using it and doing lining up with objects when you're working on traversing through the wilderness. It's a great resource to have. So you have your choice. You can do the baseline or the Lensatic. I prefer the baseline because this has the protractor and I can line it up and kind of do different things on my map. And we'll talk about maps in a different video. I don't really want to drag out the maps at this point. But the Lensatic compass has different uses. The base idea is getting from point A to point B, or point C and D and E, but being able to know where you're at and how to get to where you want to be. These are extremely important, having these tools and understanding how to use them. If you want a recommendation for a training course that's really thorough and that I really like, just get with me offline and I'll lead you to a course. There's a gentleman named Reed Tillery that he has information out there on the internet. I highly recommend his teaching for a basic understanding of land navigation. Another type of compass is the digital compass. And this is a Centrios. And with electronics, you would think that they would make life easier, but there is a learning curve. They just sometimes seem to have a mind of their own. So you have to be careful with using electronics in the field. Don't rely just on your electronics. You need to have these skills to really base your land navigation on, and then just use the electronic devices to help supplement and help fill in the gaps. Sometimes you're in an emergency and having an electronic device like a GPS, and I'll talk about this here in a second, but having a GPS and a digital compass may make things seem like they're easier and quicker, but if you're really traversing a lot of area, using these more primitive skills are, in my opinion, the most important skills you need to know. So again, we have the Centrios, and in this particular model, it has a clock on it. It has a thermometer, gives you the temperature, the date, the time, and then you can turn the compass on, and it obviously will help you in that area. Something that you need to understand, and I didn't understand this until I started studying land navigation, are the difference between true north and magnetic north. Basically, the compass is going to point towards magnetic north, not true north. So those are important things that you need to consider and understand when you're doing land navigation. And the only true way you're going to be able to understand that is by attending good training and understanding the differences between true north, magnetic north, grid north. There's just so many different things to be learned in land navigation. So this is a Magellan Triton 400. This is an older model. I think the firmware on this is like 2008. But this, in my opinion, and it may be backwards for you, this is a great unit to use. I totally believe in using a GPS. This is really good to give you your GPS coordinates and help you and assist you in your land navigation skills. Again, this takes 2 AA batteries, so it's not really that big of a deal. You can carry extra batteries, and that's all fine and well. But the thing is that electronics fail. And remember, when you're out in the wilderness, it just seems to me like electronics are kind of the first thing to go. You're dealing with humidity, you're dealing with rain, water, freezing. So things to be aware of, in case you're stuck out there, you may want to keep your electronics in a waterproof case and seal them up. And I carry one in my bag, and these all go in there. This comes with a case, and it's nice, but it's not a waterproof case. So this is not going to protect this if it falls out of a kayak into the river. But having these skills are extremely important. Using your baseline navigation skills as your foundation, and then using GPS and digital compasses and things like that as a supplement. The other thing that you got to be aware of is you may be in a situation or a place that you're not going to get good GPS satellite signal. Right now, I'm just waiting for this to initialize, and it's not going to you don't just turn it on and then everything works. It's got to talk to the satellites. It's got to communicate, and right now we have no coordinates. If I can get this to stay on. All right. There's some really nice features with this. It's got a digital compass on it. I really like the Triton series, Magellan Triton series, but right now we're waiting to just connect to a satellite. But I'm indoors, so it's going to be slower and probably take more time if it even connects at all. But the Magellan's pretty cool because you can scroll through. See if we can do this where you can see it. So you've got compass, and it's a little bit hard to see. But so again, there's a learning curve with these two. Understanding your gear, training and being prepared ahead of time instead of waiting till the last minute. A lot of people buy electronics and kind of think, okay, so we do have a connection, and you'll notice if you can see it, there's information and data on there. That's the latitude and longitude. It has connected, and this is an incredible resource to have. Here's a little bit better screen for that. These are incredible to have, and I think that every land navigation kit should have GPS. I think that your skill set needs to be based on foundational training and experience using compasses and map reading and stuff like that. And these are supplements, but these are nice supplements. These are things that are really nice to have in case you need them. But again, we've got our digital compass on here. This right here can do a lot of things as long as you can keep it alive in the wilderness and as long as you can get signal to the satellites. Maybe the weather is bad, maybe there's a lot of clouds and you're just not going to be able to get connected to the satellites. And generally speaking, when you're dealing with GPS, you have to be connected to at least a minimum of 4 satellites. 3 satellites to be able to get triangulation anyway. There's another, let me grab a couple of other things and I'm going to show you real quick, because I think having these options and kind of knowing what you're dealing with is important. So this is an old Magellan. This is a GPS 300. This thing is so ancient. It's just ancient. But with that being said, this doesn't have maps on it. This gives you your bearing and your heading and all that, and gives you it takes a little bit longer to get connected to 3 satellites. The antenna doesn't seem like it is at this level, but for a really solid type of GPS, I really recommend this one as well. This one I bought for like $10. The Magellan GPS 300. It's really ancient, and it's like over 20 years old. And when you get these, you've got to turn them on and let them sit do a reset on them, let them sit for 4 to 6 hours so they can communicate with the satellites. And then once they do, they seem to work really well outdoors. While the Magellan Triton 3 or 400 seems like it works well indoors, the GPS 300 by Magellan doesn't really like being indoors. It's more of a, hey, I want to be outside so I can connect to the 3 satellites. Now we also have, let me turn this one off. So I favor Magellan when it comes to handheld GPS units. Now we also have a Garmin. I don't have batteries in this one. This is a eTrex Legend. And to be honest with you, I turned this thing on earlier today, and it just seemed like it just really wasn't wanting to connect to satellites. It just struggled and struggled and struggled. And maybe it just needs to sit, turned on, kind of like when I first got the Magellan 300, let it sit for a few hours to kind of update its system. It may be the same thing with the Garmin. It's a really small unit. It's monochrome as opposed to color, and but it just seemed like really struggled to connect to 3 satellites to be able to even be able to get GPS coordinates. So if I were to compare the two of these, there's no comparison. I would much rather use a Magellan Triton 400. And this is not a commercial, but this is what I like, what I use in my kit. As a backup, though, I think the GPS 300, though, the learning curve on this is a little bit more because it will guide you to where you're going with an arrow and stuff, but you're not going to get maps. You're not going to be able to scroll out and see the bigger picture like you can with the Magellan Triton. So, again, these are just tools that we use in our navigation kits. Like I said, I haven't had any luck getting the eTrex to actually connect and work well. Garmin's a good company, but I think at this level, with these age of these units, the Magellans, hands down, work far better for me, in my experience. Now, you may have a different experience than that, which is fine. Remember, these take batteries. So if you're going to use electronics in your land navigation kit, you're going to need batteries. These don't need batteries. You never need batteries with these. So these are important things to keep in mind. We're going to talk more and more about land navigation, but I just kind of wanted to give you a real quick rundown of some of the gear that I carry in my land navigation kit. Nothing replaces going out there and training and practicing. Go on hikes, use maps, do your homework ahead of time. Don't wait till the last minute to be out there in the field and then start looking at a map going, where are we at? You've got to plan. You've got to have a plan in place. Keep maps in your go bags along with your, sealed up so they don't get wet and destroyed. Sometimes we may take kayak trips down a river, canoe trips down a river. You want everything sealed up and be, in case you get water, onto your gear. You want to be able to make sure that your equipment is safe, secure, and dry. Once they get wet, these are done. They're dead. They're gone. That's why having skills like this are of paramount importance, in my opinion. So this is the Gray Bearded Ninja. Hope this was helpful to you. Just wanted to give you some ideas of what's out there. I think once you educate yourself and you experiment and you get some training under your belt and you start practicing your land navigation skills, will just get better and better, and you'll be able to be much more prepared in case of an emergency. We'll see you soon.